Outside the world of education, few would be confident or even comfortable claiming that it is a lack of self-esteem which leads to felonies or its presence which leads to Nobel Prizes. Yet American schools are permeated with the idea that self-esteem precedes performance, rather than vice versa. The very idea that self-esteem is something earned rather than being a prepackaged handout from the school system seems not to occur to many educators.
All right, everybody, ready for another deep dive? I know I always say knowledge is power, but this text really made me rethink that a bit.
Yeah.
It's about this idea of unchecked intellect.
Oh, yeah.
What happens when you've got smarts, but maybe not the whole package?
I like that. Right.
Unchecked intellect.
So we're diving into this idea of intellect versus wisdom. What makes them different and why one can be riskier than the other, especially now.
I'm all for it. This is something I think about a lot.
So for everyone listening, you know the drill. We've got excerpts from this really thought-provoking text, and we're going to unpack all that.
Let's break it down. Hopefully there's some wisdom we can take away from it.
Right. So to kick things off, how would you even define wisdom? Like, what is it? Separate from just, being smart. Okay, so this is tricky, right? Because we often use these terms interchangeably. But when you really dig in, intellect, that's your brain power, absorbing facts, mastering skills. It's essential, don't get me wrong. But wisdom, that's next level.
Next level how?
It's how you apply that knowledge. It's about judgment, considering the consequences. Like, think about it. Someone could be a genius at, say, engineering, build incredible things, but if they don't stop to think about the ethical side, the environmental impact,
Right, it could be a disaster in the making.
Exactly. That's the danger this text highlights.
Which really stood out to me, too, because there's this line. Hang on, I even wrote it down. Here it is. Of all ignorance, the ignorance of the educated is the most dangerous.
Ooh, that's a powerful one.
Right. So have you run into that? Someone so sure they're right because of, their degrees or whatever, they miss what's really going on.
All the time, unfortunately. And it makes sense in a way if you think about it. If you've spent years, decades even, in a specialized field, you become an expert, your intellect is undeniable, but it can create this tunnel vision.
Oh, totally. Like you're so deep in the weeds, you forget there's a whole forest out there.
And it's not just individuals. We see this with societies, too. There are plenty of historical examples where, advanced civilizations made catastrophic decisions.
Because they were so sure their intellect made them, infallible.
Exactly. It's a cautionary tale. We can't assume expertise in one area equals wisdom overall.
Which makes me think about how much emphasis we put on credentials nowadays. It's all about the degree, the title. But is that really the same as being good at something?
That's a whole other deep dive.
It is. We should do that one next for sure.
I'm in.
But for now, there was this other point about self-esteem I thought was so relevant to everything we're talking about today.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Okay, so it says, outside the world of education, few would be confident or even comfortable claiming that it is a lack of self-esteem which leads to felonies or its presence which leads to Nobel Prizes. Unmet. Yet American schools are permeated with the idea that self-esteem precedes performance rather than vice versa. And that just hit me hard, This whole idea that we have to pump kids up, tell them they're amazing. Does that actually set them up for success? Or just make them think they deserve it without putting in the work?
It's a really good question, and one I don't think has an easy answer. On one hand, you want kids to feel good about themselves, to have the confidence to try new things.
Right, for sure.
But on the other hand, if you constantly praise them, regardless of their actual effort or achievement,
they never learn to push themselves, to actually earn that feeling of accomplishment.
Exactly. And that's where the real lasting self-esteem comes from, right? From knowing you've worked hard and achieved something difficult.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, it's not enough to just be smart. You have to be wise, too.
100%. We need to be able to look at our knowledge, our expertise even, with a critical eye.
Stay humble.
Yes. And remember, there's always more to learn.
Seek out different perspectives.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions. And the next time you're listening to someone, anyone, especially if they're considered an expert,
That's yourself.
Is this intellect talking? Or is it wisdom?
Ooh, I like that. That's a good one to end on. All right, folks, that's our deep dive for today. As always, keep those brains buzzing and stay curious.